Hello, SimTheWorld here, back with the next installment of Car Mechanic Simulator 2018. Today we're going to take a look at this. This is one of the stock cars, the Bolt Atlanta. Let's see what the customer says. They say, I just got back from a long trip. There were no issues along the way, but I'd like you to check the overall condition of my car. Thanks. And we've got to change the oil. And from the parts list, there are quite a few to find. We got a front spring, we've got a leaf spring, tie rod, so the suspension's going to need to take a look at. Spark plug, serpentine belt, bushings. Yeah, we got a mixture. Let's take a look. So inside the car, the radiator looks bad, the fan looks, everything on the front, just so hard to tell. The carburetor could be bad, the air filter's no good. I wonder how the tires are. Let's get our testing tools out and take a look. And the tires are no good. All four will need to be replaced. Check our next test. We might get a lot of these figured out. And with this, we see the starter's no good. Same with the battery. Battery needs to be charged. So let's take a look. Hopefully none of the pistons or rings need to be replaced. There's already a lot of suspension work. We got to open up the crankshaft comes out. We're essentially going to rebuild this entire vehicle. This is going to be quite the job. Yeah, there's no OBD port. We'll do the fuel test, but I can already see the fuel pump's rusty as all hell, so yeah, everything there needs to be replaced. I did say carburetor too. So, yeah, this car won't run if we wanted to do a test on the test path. That does seem to be a usual case in our series where we can't really get it on the road. Let's get it on the lifter. I don't know how they drove it back. Because if we're not able to take it to the test path, then how'd they drive it here? Did they tow it in? They drove it back from the trip? These are questions I want answers to. Let's take out some of the stuff in the engine bay. The brake servo looks good. I just want to get it ready so we can take the engine out. Because since we're going to have to replace a bunch on it, we might as well put it on the engine stand. Let's drain the oil while we're here. It's got oil, that's a good sign. Just not for the rest of the engine. And we'll come over here. Yeah, the starter comes out. Transmission comes out. At least the drive shaft looks good. This is going to be quite the build. And we've already got quite a bit to find. Yeah, I can see the bushing there looks bad. Probably all four. And as I say that, this one actually looks alright. So I'm going to probably work my way around, see if we can't fix up some of the issues underneath, and then we'll tackle the engine. That seems like the smart route. But we'll get the engine out of the way. Get that over on the stand. Yeah, that. Not looking forward to that. Okay. Let's get to work. So all four tires will need to come off. Go ahead and do that now. Because I'm thinking instead of ripping everything off and then putting stuff on, why don't I take it corner by corner? So we'll start up front. That way we're not buying more parts than we need to. Jump back up front here. Get the caliper off. Caliper's fine. Brake pad's no good. And the disc needs replaced. Let's take a look at the... Okay, so everything else looks good to me. Obviously the tie rod, we will need to take the... Yeah, we just need to strip this down, don't we? Alright, I think instead I'm going to strip down the front end, and I'll come back to you with that completed, and then we'll tackle the engine. We're back. I found quite a bit wrong with this car, just on the suspension alone. I'll take you along as we fix it. So most of the suspension components seem to have needed to be replaced. The interesting thing, so all of the leaf spring stuff needed replaced except for one of the U-bolts. One of the U-bolts was in good enough condition that we could have left it. I believe I even remember which one it was over on the other side, but I'm not going to risk that. You know how many times I say, oh, you know, I remember this spark plug, we'll just replace this one. And somehow that isn't correct and we have to replace all of them and go back in and redo everything. The rims were okay on this car, so we kept those. I swapped them. Jump over here and get this leaf spring assembly in. Yeah, I want to say it was this U-bolt right here was fine. Not risking it. It's not worth it. If I have to go back in digging for a part. That's why when we go and take apart the engine, since we need to remove all the pistons, because the crankshaft needs to get pulled too, that means I'm going to end up replacing all the pistons and springs just because I don't want to go back into that. I don't want to pick the wrong one. And I know you could probably look in the menu as you assemble these cars and see if it is fixed, if it was marked correctly. But in the spirit of the game too, I think it's important to realize, like, if you're going to have one piston replaced, well, chances are if you need a piston replaced, that car is done. No one's, especially an older vehicle, it's going to have caused so much damage to the block if a piston fails that it's not going to be worth replacing. However, in this game, I guess they get away with it. But yeah, if you're replacing one, you'd replace all of them. That's why I ended up pulling out those two bushings up front here. If you're replacing these two, you might as well replace the ones up front, because even if they're not ready to go in real life, they probably would have been close. Unless there's something else wrong with the vehicle where it's wearing in, you know, in different amounts. These, I'm keeping those bushings the same, because we didn't replace that part. And in fact, I'm going to have to run to the store. I wasn't expecting to buy those bushings. Oh, I needed the upper suspension arms too. Sometimes I remember everything, sometimes I don't. There are so many parts in these cars, which makes it a lot more fun in the game. So we've been working on a lot of older cars recently, so a lot of these parts end up looking very similar. I think almost most of the cars that we've done suspension work on have been the leaf spring rear ends. But perhaps soon we'll get some stuff switching up. You never know. We are making our way through these jobs. I believe we are on story order 27, 28 at this point. Like, we're moving along. And if there are only 44 in the game, which I believe there are, then the series will be... No, we don't want to do that. Yeah, the series will be nearing its end. And of course, as I've mentioned in the past, I'm considering doing a series going through the DLCs, maybe not full builds in the cars, but instead reviewing and looking at the new custom DLC vehicles, what that DLC pack gets you, what new parts are in there. More of a review setting, but we'll pick up a car and play around with it too. The biggest thing I can think of is pulling out the engine. A lot of those engines are pretty specific. That's where a lot of the time and uniqueness comes in the DLC cars, so if that's something you guys would be interested in, please let me know down in the comments. If it's not, perhaps we'll find something different. But with this, I think this car should be good to go. Ooh, I should put that battery on the charger. That would be useful. That way it's ready to go when the engine is. So as for this engine, you've seen me tear out everything before. So instead of boring you with that, why don't I come back when we're almost done? I'll show you guys the new parts on it. I'll show you guys what else was wrong with it that we had to replace. Because I think some of the spark plugs are going to get replaced, if not, well, all of them, since that tends to be the safest route. But I'll be back in a few minutes. With the engine stripped, it is time to get rebuilding. We will be quick with this one. I did want to mention, you'll see the engine block. It isn't new. I did end up just repairing that. Because we're replacing all the pistons, all the rocker arms, all the rods, all the spark plugs, all the rings, most of this engine is getting replaced anyhow, just either because it was poor condition or it was an item which I didn't feel comfortable. Like, I'm not going to replace one piston. Even if I remember it was these two that needed to be replaced, I don't trust the game mechanics to remember that, and I don't want to go back in and redo this. So everything gets replaced, as we've mentioned, and I figured it'd be a cool thing just to go through and repair what we could. So you'll see some parts didn't, like the camshaft. Camshaft was fine. We didn't have to do anything with that. But it was in the inventory. It could have been, we could repair it. So it got repaired to full condition. Same with the engine block and the heads. They were fine. They didn't need to be. But if we were repairing other things, it seemed like an easy task to do. So I'm going to get this engine built and we'll get it in the car. So just based on the parts we had to replace and the parts that I replaced so we didn't have to go in and do this again, that engine is 100%. If we go to put this in, let's take a look. Yep, condition of this engine, every part is 100%. So they're getting essentially a brand new engine. There were a few parts that, the engine block, the engine heads, things like that we did just repair. But a lot of it we did replace too. So they are getting such a mad deal. I wish I got this in my vehicle. A brand spanking new engine just going in for some work. The way I see it, I wouldn't doubt that the cost of this repair is going to be something astronomical, which we still end up making money on. Jump under here. Yeah, I think we repaired the whole transmission too. I know we did the drive shaft. And we were able to repair the spark plug, so I didn't have to purchase a new one. This should be the last piece we need to do. And let's take a look at our... Yep. It looks like everything's been found. I'll go a little bit slowly just for those of you if you're playing along or trying to figure out how to finish this job, what could be missing. This is your full part list. This is everything you need to do. Yeah, there's 5 push rods, 5 rocker arms. You didn't have to be as extreme as I was, but it did make for a good car. And our job bonus, we get an extra $10,000. Let's go ahead and complete this. That's money in our pocket. So I might have to take a look, see if we lost money on that one. But either way, I feel pretty good. We finished another job, and this concludes our video. So thanks for watching as I simulate my life one game at a time. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the future action. You can follow on Twitter for updates of future games being played, as well as follow on Twitch as I try to stream 3 days a week. Thanks, and I'll see you next time at SimTheWorld.